Welcome to the Nerd Party.
All right, welcome back to Houselights. While we're here, we're chasing down the latest film from Stuart, Baird, and that's U.S. Marshals. We're going to go through every outhouse, farmhouse, hen house, whorehouse, warehouse, flop house, crack house, and every kind of house you can find. And we're going to go there. And I'm Chief Deputy Podcaster John Mills, and I'm joined with Deputy Podcasters Tristan Riddell and Darren Moser. You guys ready to go on track on down Stuart Baird's latest film?
I got to do the clap. That was amazing.
Thank you.
Amazing.
I channeled Tommy Lee there.
Oh,
Tommy Lee as a Southern
podcaster.
No,
yes,
the auctioneer, the Southern auctioneer.
Yeah, there you go. Right, exactly. Well, he was very in the moment, and of course, as I said, we're here. We're in the House of Baird, wing of Baird. What is it? Outhouse of Baird. Is it a House of Baird? It's a very small house.
Give him a house. Give him a
house.
Okay.
It is a one-story ranch. Okay, it's fine.
Okay, fair enough. We're here in the House of Baird, and we are here at his second film, U.S. Marshals, 1998's sequel to The Fugitive. All right, spinoff. Sure, why not? Yeah, it's got. We take the antagonist, we make him the protagonist-ish.
Spiritual successor.
Something like that.
Spiritual successor is something like when nothing is related. I thought about this before we hit record.
No, I think you're right.
I
Spin-off.
didn't.
It's a spin-off when you take the character.
Movie.
Yeah.
All right.
No, I get that.
Well, it's still 6 years later. Tommy Lee Jones has already been Two-Face, and he's already won the Oscar for The Fugitive, for this role, in fact, from The Fugitive. And we are chasing down this time Wesley Snipes. And this is a film
not for tax evasion.
Which, boy, wouldn't that would have just worked, wouldn't it? That would have been great. There would have been a lot of method acting in that film, I feel. Not so much in this one. But I can say that here, this is my first encountering with U.S. Marshals. Strangely enough, I didn't avoid it, and it was one where I remembered the commercial. I was talking about this with Darren before we started recording. I remember a commercial at the time that had a line probably from Jeff Craig from 60 Second Preview saying that it was every bit as good as The Fugitive. I've never been able to track down that review since, and I'm sure it's just a pull quote where it's like it has the ellipses on either end. And the full sentence is like, if this were competently done, then I could consider it every bit as good as The Fugitive, but I don't, or something like that. But you both have seen this before. Darren, this wasn't a movie theater movie for you, even though it's PG-13, right?
98, it might have been, but most likely this was a Blockbuster rental. It's just it's got the cover, it's got, Tommy Lee. And yeah, I own this one on DVD. It's a fun movie. It's definitely in the shadow of its predecessor. I think it's really hard to kind of look at it on its own, especially with the side characters who are even more sidelined kind of in their own movie of the rest of the U.S. Marshals. It's like U.S. Marshal and Robert Downey Jr. is kind of the new name of the movie. But all that to say, yeah, this I probably saw sometime in the aughts, from a Blockbuster rental.
And Tristan, I'm guessing the same.
This was a family favorite. This was a Riddell family favorite.
Of course it was.
This was my parents went to go see it because my parents were big Fugitive fans, and my dad's a hardcore Harrison Ford fan. Like he has to be his favorite actor. And so when he found out that this was a spinoff to The Fugitive, because he loved the dynamic of Tommy Lee Jones and that crew and everything like that. And when he found out, like, oh, holy crap, like it's another Fugitive, but just not Kimball, he was all about it. So he took my mom and he came home and he's like, it was awesome. Like, we're going to get it. We're going to get it on video. And then like, you'll watch it when we get it. And he bought it. Like it was a day one release that he bought the VHS. And we watched it, and I was like, holy crap, that was a lot of fun. And we rewatched it. And it's just like, I've seen this movie so many times. Like, it was one of those things where I was just like, do I need to watch it in preparation for this podcast? And I did, because I like it. I was actually watching it while I was in the shower I was finishing it just like 15 minutes ago while I was in the shower.
Well, I applaud your waterproof iPad that you were watching it on. Or maybe you're one of those fancy lads that has a TV in the shower. I remember several movies where that was a thing. But that actually, your dad said, oh, another fugitive. That's gonna be one of my core questions here. And Darren, I'll throw it to you first. Do you think that the title U.S. Marshals is good? Like we know, it's a spiritual successor spinoff.
It's a title.
Yeah. Would another fugitive have been a better title? Like another fugitive featuring U.S. Marshals or something like that?
No, I don't think so, because then that is, I think, going to be cashing in on the fugitive a little too much. This is literally, like Tristan said, like his dad pitched, oh, they took the U.S. Marshals from the fugitive and made a movie. What do we call it? U.S. Marshals. Like, it's very like 90s titling. Like, that is just what you do. You just keep it simple, 2 words. I think if they had the word fugitive in it in some capacity, I think it would have been misrepresenting, because people would have been expecting Harrison Ford or something like that. But I think it was great, because that's exactly what this movie is
I didn't kill my wife again.
Again, I double didn't this time.
I still don't care.
Yeah.
That makes me think of Stakeout and Another Stakeout.
Exactly.
Do you guys remember those movies?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I think you're right, Darren, and Tristan. I assume you agree that it's good that this didn't follow the typical spin-off sequel franchise. Well, by having Richard Kimball appear in the beginning for like a scene where it's like, I sure am glad we're not enemies anymore. Yuck, yuck, yuck. Good luck with your next case.
We call each other on the phone at random times just to connect. No. Oh, God.
We would see Harrison Ford with a beard.
Yep.
He's, like he's just about to go into surgery.
Yes.
He's just like, hey, you're going to make it to the barbecue on Saturday?
Yes.
Oh,
it's the anniversary of the time you caught me. I just always wanted to call you, even though I'm about to go into surgery or something.
That's right.
Stupid.
And for those of you at home, all of us just did the hand to the head motion of talking
the hand
on
banana.
the phone.
Yeah, the hand banana. Yes, exactly.
The hand banana.
Exactly right. So, it's a straightforward premise. And the next question I'm going to ask is specifically because I shared the story last time of having watched an Executive Decision, which came out in 1996, with my youngest, and finding out that it wasn't PG-13, but was in fact rated R, something I had to own up to with the other parent in this dynamic here. I want to ask pointedly, Tristan, do you see any reason why that was R and this is PG-13? Is there any substantive difference between the two in terms of level of violence or language?
Yeah.
There is?
Yeah, man.
How am I missing it? Why would this one be? This one has plane crash, gunfire, people getting wounded, squibs everywhere, foul language, intrigue, like all of this type of stuff. What makes this PG-13 and that R?
I think from the perspective of the 90s with the MPAA, which in itself is a whole can of worms.
Sure.
Like we could go on and on about the
But
MPAA.
it's totally consistent across every movie through all of time. I don't know what you're talking about, Tristan.
If I had to speak for the nebulous mobsters that make up the MPAA, I would say it's because there is more blood in Executive Decision, and it's consecutive. Like it like there's one scene in particular where like when they like take out the lights and they take out all of the terrorists, it's like boom, 3 shots in the chest. Boom, 3 shots in the chest. Boom, all the pilots are dead. Boom, the bad guy shot in the back. And all of that's it's squibs and bloods and everything like that. So I think the amount of blood is much higher in Executive Decision than it is here. And when somebody gets shot in this movie, it's once. It's like, oh, okay, Sheridan got shot in the shoulder. Like, like Sam Gerard got shot in the chest, but there was no blood because it was on his bulletproof vest. And like, oh, Newman, that was graphic, but it was just like, once in the stomach. So like it was spread out. Like there was no like, holy crap, this graphic scenes. It was, some people got shot. And also there's the terrorist element, there's the violence towards women element, which the MPA does not like. None of that really exists in this one, but it does in Executive Decision. So yeah, I absolutely.
What about terrorizing the elderly in that old folks home they go into?
Oh man, those poor people, especially that guy who was just like, what was he? He was like in the bathroom or something.
He had like an ironing board. He was like doing his laundry.
He was doing his laundry, and like, all
are you alone in here? Not a question I'm expecting. No.
Yeah. Well,
like,
so
Gerard's pointing a gun at him. He's like, "You're not going to be hurt." I was like, "I don't know if I am."
Right.
Poor
There's
man.
a whole lot of procedural questions I have about how they went into the nursing home, in all honesty, and why there wasn't at least mention over the radio of somebody having a heart attack. And I'm not saying that flippantly. I'm saying like that's a thing. Like that would have happened. So
also, that poor guy who's doing his laundry, like he gets a gun pointed at his face, and he's freaking out like anybody would. And then like Sam Gerard like goes into the next room, but he doesn't have his gun pointed at the woman's face, and he's like, "Ma'am, are you alone?" She's like, "Yes."
yes,
she just moves on.
Yeah,
it is interesting though, because I don't know that I would really agree with the reasoning, but I understand the reasoning you're throwing out there about the difference between the ratings. Okay, I'll roll with it, but I'm not. I don't know.
I feel it's literally like a twinge of the needle, one or the other. Like Executive Decision could almost be PG-13, and this could almost be by the same standards, but one happened to fall one way and one happened to fall the other. Probably, like Tristan said, violence to women, the terrorist aspect, like. But I really can't put myself in the mind of an MPAA person because it doesn't make sense. I can't apply logic.
That's a very, very accurate statement. But, obviously people are listening to this. They'll have seen U.S. Marshals.
Well,
but
somebody think of John's children.
Just hey, listen, she did fine. She liked it. And besides, it's got Kurt Russell, which this film does not have, which is an instant strike against it. Once I press play and I'm like, oh, there's no Kurt Russell here. What the hell is going on?
That's an immediate 1-star knockdown.
Oh yeah,
like, this can't be a 5-star film now.
Almost every movie I go into, it has to earn back up to the 5-star. Once I realize Kurt Russell is not in it, it's an uphill battle. But I think that there is a challenge, and Darren, both you and Tristan have seen this before now and everything like that. And I come at it fresh and I look at it. I see some of the same procedural issues in the beginning with the way that the recap of this context-free, somebody's getting shot in a parking garage somewhere. Why am I seeing this sort of thing going on? Very much has the same vibe of I saw an action sequence that was shot for a kidnapping from one terrorist to another sort of thing in the beginning of Executive Decision. Coming at it with a fresh set of eyes this time, does it still play well? Does it work for you to start? Or do you think that the opening, I'm just going to flat out say it, I think the opening of this is just as clunky as Executive Decision. Do you share that opinion, or do you think this one is smoother?
It's hard to kind of re-examine because I almost ignore that part because it's part of the mystery that I already know the answer to. So it's hard to put that back in the bottle and kind of be surprised of, oh, what does this mean? Oh, is this going on? Like, and they do a really good job of making him sympathetic, where I never feel like they're trying to make us think he actually did it. Like, I'm never really feeling that he's always wrong place, wrong time. Like, obviously there's more going on than we know, especially once it elevates to like, oh, he's an operative and all this stuff. But I think that would have played better, the mystery shots, if they were trying to go for some sort of angle of, well, he's a fugitive, but maybe this one did it. Like, it's not a foregone conclusion that the fugitive is innocent or fully innocent. And he's but they didn't really go that direction. And Sam Gerard, they weren't playing it like he was always just trying to get his man. There was never an aspect of, are you innocent or not, which there was in The Fugitive. That layer in the plot didn't exist in this movie.
Mm-hmm. Same question to you, Tristan. Are you able to detach yourself enough to look at the opening and just look at it purely objectively and reassess it? And I'm not saying that you'd reach the same conclusion I do, but like, is it something where it's murky the way it is for Darren for you?
No, not really. I actually didn't mind it because I give a lot of grace during opening title sequences, where if it's done in a style of an opening title where it's stylistic, there's a lot of dissolves, like there's a lot of punchy music where it's like woo, boom, boom, things like that where it's very blue. It's like you see the security cam footage, but then it's intermixed with the camera actually being there, so it's voyeuristic, but at the same time entwine with someone who's actually there in a narrative stance. And so to me, I didn't see it clunky as all. Like executive decision, clunky as all get out. Really weird. Like just really like the first 3 or 4 scenes of executive decision is super clunky. With this one, I can just say the security footage is just kind of a teaser to what's going on, and it's also a title sequence. So I give it a lot of grace for that. I don't think it's anywhere near as clunky as executive decision because
that's
of that
true. Like to speak about title sequences for a second, like I don't know why this one popped into my head, but for 2 examples, you can choose to use the title sequence like this movie does to kind of start the plot rolling. Kind of, I don't know why it made me think of Italian Job, where you have kind of certain overlays and you're kind of establishing like really loosely. But then on the other end of the spectrum, you have things like Star Trek First Contact, where it's just the names blurring into existence and you're getting 0 plot. So that's a good way, I think, to view it, Tristan, where if you're choosing to use the title sequence, it gives it a little more leeway to not be as narratively succinct or as straightforward as like, oh, we're in the movie now. It's like kind of context clues, but then we're good.
See, I fall in the camp with a movie like this where I'm much more of a let's streamline it and get there quicker type of mentality. And that, it's just 2 different approaches sort of thing, where I would have preferred, since this is U.S. Marshals and Tommy Lee Jones is essentially supposed to be our main character in this, I would not have even wanted to see the tow truck accident with Wesley Snipes. I would have wanted to see the apprehension of the bad guys with Tommy Lee Jones in a chicken suit, and then have one of those criminals get loaded onto the plane, and Wesley Snipes happens to be there, and that's my introduction to him. And then he gets freed, and then Tommy Lee Jones gets sucked into this intrigue because that's what happens to him. As the audience, we're given this beneficial knowledge beforehand, which works fine, works with The Fugitive, but I just feel like with something like The Fugitive, I think if you take the 2 films and you put them back to back, I think The Fugitive is an example of where that works better because the protagonist is different. But that's just my opinion of it.
No, and I'd forgotten that. I mean, it's been a moment since I've seen The Fugitive, so that's true. Because doesn't The Fugitive start with like the attack on his wife? Like we see that, and so maybe that is maybe it's not as deep as we're thinking. It's just, oh, they kind of did that in The Fugitive. We're going to kind of do that as well. Spin off where, oh, you show a pseudo revealing what's going on, but there's still the mystery. As far as the events that were occurring in the parking garage, I do kind of agree with you, John, though. That would have been an interesting take of not establishing, him in the tow truck and all that stuff, because it really starts to be like wrong place, wrong time. Like this is just a guy. And then you find out, no, it's actually a really interesting guy. But if we had met him for the first time on the plane, that would have been. We're having a lot of movies that are like this, like Executive Decision. A lot of movies where like their opening act is just very interesting in a way to hook you. I don't know.
I think that a lot of movies, if they have a strong ending, can get away with a messier first act. And I think that that's fair enough. Like, a strong ending will make you forgive a lot of sins from 2 hours prior sort of thing. But I think that additionally, it is one of those things where, again, it can lead to a little bit of not plot confusion. Confusion is overstating it, but there's just a little bit of messiness about it. I think that and this is coming at a completely cold first-time viewer, I think that Harrison Ford is a dynamically charismatic and appealing leading man / accused criminal. I don't get the same vibe from Wesley Snipes. I take nothing away from him as an actor. There are a lot of films where he is fantastic, where I love his performances. I think his performance is fine here. But he doesn't make me root for him the same way that Harrison Ford can make me root for him. Now, part of that unquestionably is Harrison Ford is Han Solo and Indiana Jones, and I carry that sort of nostalgic thing in with me.
Also considering that Harrison Ford is the main lead of The Fugitive and
Right.
Wesley Snipes is the secondary lead of U.S. Marshals.
Yes.
That's a good point.
There's no question about that. I get what you're saying, but is he charismatic enough to even for that part of it is what I'm saying. Is like, I don't wind up in his camp a whole lot unless the movie tells me I have to be. I don't really find myself caring about him that much. Sort
Originally
of thing.
It was going to be Samuel. What do you think about that?
That would be a very interesting alternate reality, because I think Samuel L. Jackson, especially at this point in his career, he's a loose cannon. Like he's got that. But again, I have, especially this is post Pulp Fiction, I'd have that same sort of Harrison Ford built-in love for him that would come into it. Wesley Snipes, all of his roles, no matter how good he is, he's never been able to rely on that same sort of goodwill that the audience brings in, at least from my perspective. Darren, like, do you find yourself at all struggling to sympathize with him in this role, or does he sell you on it and you're on board with him?
Yeah, I remember seeing in reading the behind the scenes a little bit that they were especially bringing a lot of his girlfriend around because to try to establish sympathy for his character. And when you have to do that, like, then you're not sympathetic to the character outright. I mean, I'm looking at his lineup. My God, this guy was doing a million things in 1998, but this is the same year Blade dropped. So, which, I mean,
come on,
he's the star of that one for sure.
That is a gold standard comic book movie before the age of Marvel. I love that film. I love it.
So yeah, I don't know. I don't know if it would have worked better with Samuel L. I think it's just,
well, I mean, it's a moot point in a sense, because he's who's in the movie.
True.
And Tristan, I'll throw this over to you. My impression while I'm watching the film is that the characters are struggling against the murkiness of the plot. There's a lot going on here. A doesn't necessarily connect to B as cleanly as I'd like it to, and C's a little bit floating out there. There are points where it's like, wait, I feel a little bit like Homer Simpson in the cult camp, where I go, you mean the other cop knew he was in internal affairs the whole time? That wasn't in the movie. I know, but I got distracted, so I wrote another movie in my head. Like, there were a couple of moments where I was like, wait, huh? And it's not because I'm dense. It's because I'm like, oh, wait, right. Oh, okay, right. And Tristan, just because it's a great visual medium, Tristan made a face as if to indicate maybe I am a little dense, which hurt. And you can't see the hurt on my face. But Tristan, I'm guessing.
But you can see the jubilance on mine.
Indeed. But I think that, so I'm tilting at windmills here. The plot is clean, clear through line, no clunkiness in terms of the scripting.
Well, okay. You bring up a solid point. As a kid, this made sense to me because to me, this was like, okay, some shady things are happening with the Chinese. And that's all I needed to know.
It's a plot of every movie before that market was opened up to Hollywood.
Right? Oh my God. Yeah. Like, to me, I was just like, yeah, that's some shady stuff is going on with the Chinese.
Yep.
There you go. And, but yeah, there was a few times like when I was watching, I was just like, wait, okay, so what role does Lamb play? What role does Chen play? And then I was like, oh, right. It was, like, even though I'm an adult and I've seen this movie probably a dozen times, I'm like, not joking. I've probably seen this movie a dozen times. Like the little details of the plot, like how it involves North Korea, because there's so much that is dumped in the the church at the cemetery when he's throwing the documents at the guy that he just hit. And he's, he's throwing down. It's like, yeah, trying to get the, the military locations of South Korea and sell them to the Chinese or something like that. You're just like, wait. You think you essentially want Rick Moranis to just look at the camera and go, everybody got that?
Yeah, yes, right.
So yes, there is. I feel like they tried to bite off a little bit more than they could chew, because I know we keep going back to The Fugitive, but with it being a spinoff, you kind of have to. Where it was Kimball was innocent, the one-armed man did it. Why did the one-armed man do it? And that's what you were trying to figure out. And with this one, it was pretty much just, there's some weird agency stuff going on. What is Robert Downey Jr. doing? Why are the Chinese involved? Is there Lethal Weapon 2 diplomatic immunity going on? Yeah.
I'm glad you asked the question, what's going on with Robert Downey Jr. Darren, I wanted to ask you, this is definitely pre-jail stint Robert Downey Jr. And
we're on the cusp.
We are right on the cusp.
This is in the middle of it, honestly.
There's actually a delightful production story where Robert Downey Jr. ghosted the set for a few days for the climactic hospital sequence at the end. And it was at the end of shooting, and they actually had to put things on hold for a couple of days while he was working out his demons, not in rehab, just having a bit of a time. We all love Robert Downey Jr. I'm so glad he's on the other side of it. Huge respect for the guy. Absolutely huge respect for the guy. I don't even care about his career. Anybody that can pull through that and make it through, absolute mad respect. However, in terms of his performance and his focus, do you think that this showed the Robert Downey Jr. that you would expect, given his storied career, given what you know of him, what he's capable of? Was this a Robert Downey Jr. that was fully invested in what was going on screen?
Yeah, it's also hard because he's playing the mole. Like, he's the new guy, but he's also got to play like the bad guy. And I don't think he's quite up for it yet in this stage in his career, versus like a post Iron Man world. But yeah, I honestly keep forgetting he's in it. And then he like shows up in that scene. It's like, oh, that's right. I forgot that he's a major character in this movie. But yeah, I don't know. I don't have much to say about his role. He does a passable job. I think the twist, like, you hate him in all the right places. I'll say that. Like when he shoots the kid and like is, anytime you put him in a scene where he's about to like do something he shouldn't, like you feel that, which props to that. But that's probably also just the general writing of his character as opposed to a performance.
Tristan, even given all that, I think that one of the challenges is at this stage in his career, Robert Downey Jr. feels a little too young to be throwing down with Tommy Lee Jones in this sort of context as his secret adversary. Do you agree with that? Do you think they could have should they have cast the role differently, regardless of anything else going on in Robert Downey Jr.'s life at the time?
No. I liked Robert Downey Jr. in this movie, even though he hated this movie. Like, he hated this movie. He hated filming it. This was in the middle of his troubles. And I think, like, after the movie was released, he was interviewed talking about how he would much rather wake up in jail and get a TB test than wake up another morning and say, I have to go film another day of U.S. Marshals.
That seems a bit extreme, but okay. That is one heck of a feeling about a film.
But the thing is, though, is that I have always been a Robert Downey Jr. fan. I have been a Robert Downey Jr. fan before it was cool. Okay, like I am hipster Robert Downey Jr. fan here, because I first saw him in Air America in 1990 opposite Mel Gibson.
Mm-hmm.
I loved him in that. That was fantastic. And then then I saw him as Charlie Chaplin in Chaplin in 1992. That's one of my favorite movies of all time. Chaplin. It's beautiful. It's awesome. It's amazing. I love that movie. And then he's Thomas Riley in Heart and Souls. That is a Riddell family favorite, Darren. Heart and Souls is a beautiful movie. I text my family about that movie even today. It came out in 93 and we are still talking about it. And, and then Only You, opposite Marissa Tomei, just all these all these great movies, like Two Girls and a Guy, really nice indie film. All this came out before U.S. Marshals. So when U.S. Marshals came out and I saw it with my dad, I was like, hell's yeah, Robert Downey Jr. So I can't give you an honest answer. Like, yeah, could they go with somebody older? Like they could go with someone like, probably the trope of, like, oh, this country never gave me anything, and so I'm selling, secrets to the Chinese, like something like that. Or you just get somebody who's just like young and an upstart who's just like, you know what, screw it, I'm just gonna make some extra money on the side. You could go either way. Either way, I think is this a unique Downey Jr. performance? No. A lot of people could have played this role. A lot of people could have played this role just as good as him. A lot of people could have played this role better. But I don't think it was a disservice having him there, if that makes sense.
No, I understand what you're saying. I would have, you know what, we can always double back to it later because I don't want to just like turn this into the Robert Downey Jr. hour here. But obviously, I have some issues with it. But one of the things I want to say is that audiences in general didn't have too many issues with it because it got an A- on Cinema Score. And if you're A- or above, that typically means word of mouth is going to carry you forward. However, it opened number 2 because Titanic was still number 1 when this came out in March, even though Titanic had come out in December. Kids, you forget that in the era before the multiplex with 2,500 theaters in it, where the big theaters had 9 theaters, 4 of them were still playing Titanic in March of 1998. Given that, the movie did well, especially if you include the international box office. So Darren, given the fact that the movie did pretty well, it had a decent opening against Titanic, which was, a big juggernaut and everything. Do you think it's surprising that there was not a sequel to this, considering technically it did financially well enough to, hit that mark?
No, I'm not really surprised. I think it scratched that itch of everybody who was like, oh, I want to see these characters again. Oh, that's cool. It's the U.S. Marshals, but I really don't care to see like a third time. I don't really know like how you would be able to change the story enough to make that interesting. Maybe Gerard is falsely accused and he's going to jail, and then the rest of his team has to like try to figure out what actually happened while he's also trying to figure it out from the inside. You'd have to do some big change, otherwise it would start to feel really formulaic. And that's just my opinion, but I think this is enough. And I like Tommy Lee Jones. I liked him in The Fugitive. I like him in many things, but I don't feel the need to revisit Sam Gerard again.
Hard disagree. As soon as this ended, I was like, I wish they did a third one. And then I was just like, wait, could we do a third one today? Yes, we could. I'd figure it out.
He's in the retirement home and somebody takes his walker and he has to track them down. I struggle with a few things in this. And one of the things I actually struggled with is the music. And it's Jerry Goldsmith. And again, a lot of love, a lot of respect for the guy. He's easily one of the most prolific composers of all of cinema history. And a lot of times his scores are better than the movies that they are for. Star Trek V. And you can sit there and listening to this score. I actually wrote a note. I shared it with Tristan before we recorded. And the note I actually wrote down was, calling the score over the top implies it acknowledges a top exists. And Darren, I just wanted to ask you, with the score for this film, do you feel it hit the mark? Did it give you all that emotional punch that you're looking for from a movie score? Or was it a wee bit too bombastic for its own good?
It's a good score. It's definitely, it's definitely Jerry Goldsmith. It sounds like a Jerry Goldsmith score. Like it fits right in that groove. Kind of like, I love John Williams scores as well, but you can hear a John Williams score and you're like, oh, that's a John Williams score. Like it has a sound to it. Especially you can kind of tell like what decade you're like, oh, this is a mid 90s, Goldsmith score. So all that to say, I say that with the caveat of I like the score, but it was nothing special. Like it didn't, they didn't have some really cool hook, or the fight scene didn't have some track that just, I got to download that. But it also seemed to have a little bit of a tie to The Fugitive. Like I felt a little bit of that motif kind of trickled in. So yeah, it's very middle of the road. I don't like hate it or love it. It's just, it was decent.
Tristan, strong feelings one way or the other?
Yeah, man. When I was listening to Executive Decision and when I was listening to this movie, U.S. Marshals, I was like, every single time I heard Goldsmith go over the top or like really hit it hard, I was like, God dang it, I missed the 90s. Oh, man. I missed the 90s so much. So it was
a good 90s script or score. I will give
it. No,
it
was a good 90s script and it was a good 90s score. I think, John, you're not wrong. You're not wrong that it's over the top. But at the same time, I feel like we had this really weird mode of where Goldsmith would go over the top. And then we have the early aughts where things are a little bit more subdued, where it's just kind of throws to the background, it's just kind of like tones and atmospheric stuff. And then we have Zimmer kind of knocking it out of the park with Inception, where we get the whoms and the bass and everything like that. So I feel like the pendulum was swinging back and forth, and Goldsmith in the 90s was very much when the pendulum hit its peak.
I think that's fair. I think in the when you go further with Goldsmith into those early 2000s, you hear him start to embrace some more of his experimental roots again. Very minimalist sort of stuff starts to happen. And we'll be talking about one of those films that has a slightly more minimalist vibe at points, a little bit more experimental with synthesizers on our final House of Baird, which is sure to be a rip-roaring good time, y'all, as I discuss that with two Trekkies here. Or I'm sorry, Trekkers. But one last thing I really want to come back to with U.S. Marshals is Tristan, I think you're absolutely right. You called it out more than once about how 90s this movie is, how just unapologetically, this is the era we're in, sort of action movie that this is. But it was also delightful that in 1998, a just burgeoning nationwide brand of Starbucks found a way to place itself very firmly into the movie. And Darren, did you feel the same sort of nostalgic twinge of like, oh, there was a time when Starbucks was something where they had to exert some sort of marketing influence because people weren't quite sure what it was?
I mean, you have this and you have what, like, You've Got Mail. I mean, Starbucks was showing up all over the place. That was a little on the nose for this time. Like, kind of like when product placement's kind of rearing its head, like, she works there, but she could work anywhere. It doesn't have to be a Starbucks, but
she could have taken a phone call at home instead of at work.
I mean, I'm surprised her manager let her take a phone call. Like, that doesn't sound like the Starbucks I know.
Hey, listen, Starbucks was super cool back then. I worked next door to a Starbucks in 1998, and that was like the bomb. Everybody loved Starbucks back then.
To be fair to Wesley Snipes and his character, like, he pretended to be a customer, and like she picks up the phone. She's like, "Some guy has a question about a grinder you sold him."
That's true.
When I worked retail, that's what I told people to do if they wanted to get a hold of me.
Told you sold your grinder?
No. I worked in electronics, and so I sold TVs. And so if I was like, if you want to get a hold of me,
Tristan, someone said you sold them a coffee maker. I don't know who. Why? What?
That's so weird because I sold them a Sony. That was a Sony coffee maker. That's weird.
They must be confused. Yeah, no, it's definitely one of those things where this is a product of its era, but something that I think is charming, Darren, is the fact that we are, all three of us, I'm older than the two of you, obviously, but all three of us, I think, are of the age where watching this, even if it doesn't hit specifically the right note, still has that nostalgic echo for us. However, part of that nostalgic echo can be overwritten by duration of the film. Do you feel that this movie overstays its welcome at all? Do you think that it should have or could have been shorter? Do you think it should have been longer? Did you want more U.S. Marshals, or was it just the right runtime?
Well, we know Tristan's answer to more U.S. Marshals, but
Well, I mean, more U.S. Marshals story, this specific story.
oh, this chapter, more of this chapter. No, I personally didn't have a problem with the runtime. Story wise, it does kind of, again, maybe that's just also kind of how The Fugitive was, but like, we're all over the place geographically. Like we're in the swamp, and then we're in a boat in a grain field, and then we're in a hospital, and then we're over here. And which again, we're chasing him down. It just kind of started to unspool as the story went on. Like in the very beginning, it's like, here's our cordon, here's our mile marker, boom, boom, boom. And then as he gets farther away, like it starts to just get bigger. Again, nothing against the runtime for that, but
interjection. They shot in 66 locations.
It feels like they shot in 66 locations, but no, I personally, I didn't have any particular issue with the runtime.
Tristan, is this just the right amount of U.S. Marshals, or should there have been more for this specific?
For this specific
instance.
film, I think this was good. It could have been a little tighter. I think when we got to the cemetery scene, that's when I was like, okay, all right. We're seeing Sam Gerard and Noah just kind of hang out, sitting on a headstone, hiding, but not really. Like it was just like there was some slow dissolves, and it just killed the momentum dead. Like that scene in particular killed the momentum dead. And that's when I was checking my watch. I'm like, man, really? Okay, we got like 45, 50 minutes left, something like that. So even though I really like this movie and I think it's overall well paced, this was, I think, 2 hours and 12 minutes. I think this could have been 2 hours, a tight 2 hours.
Completely agree. And I think that cutting up the opening differently definitely would have solved that 12 minutes that you're looking for right there. If you had just gotten to the plane a lot faster, I think that's part of it, and then tighten up the cemetery, I think my reaction as a first-time viewer would have been much more positive with this film. Because
it's interesting that you keep bringing up the opening, because the opening didn't bother me at all. Like, it really didn't bother me at all. I felt like it was well paced. It wasn't until we got towards the end of the second act.
Listen,
I felt like things needed
I have a weird thing where I just sort of like hitch on to the opening of a film. If anybody would care to listen to an episode of Aggressive Negotiations here on the Nerd Party, where I got into a fight with Mr. Matthew Rushing about what I felt was the clunkiness of the opening of Rogue One, you'll find that I tend to really fixate on that type of stuff. It's bizarre. I tend to have a very specific view of how quick I want to get to the point. I don't know if that's because I'm old and I'm aware I'm going to die a lot sooner than I'd like. And so it's like, come on, I have less time to waste right now. Like when I was a young man, take your time, get there as much as you want to. But now I'm kind of like, okay, speed it up. Let's get there. In terms of the grain barge, I felt the fight choreography was a little lacking in this film overall. Specifically zeroing in on that scene, Darren, did you feel that was an effective fight scene where Gerard and Mark are fighting amongst the grain, or with Robert Downey Jr.'s surprisingly accurate at a very long range handgun? Was that a good fight scene for you, or was that how was it overall?
I mean, I did read behind the scenes that they wanted to make Snipes more of a brawler in this one, because that is not Wesley Snipes' strongest suit. I don't know. It felt a little disappointing. I mean, God, guys, this is the same year Blade came out, which is like peak Snipes fighting. And
yes, it is.
This was not even close.
Okay. Wesley Snipes is like a quadruple black belt.
Oh no! I'm talking choreography. I'm not talking about the guy's ability. He's an insanely good fighter.
I know that. But that's the thing, is that like this was whether you agree or disagree, that's fine. I'm not trying to tell you how to feel, but whether you agree or disagree, this was a conscious decision by Stuart Baird to not make it too stylistic. And I kind of agree with that decision. I feel like we've been ruined by so many movies where there has to be kung fu. Like there has to be, like, I feel like the Matrix and the prequels have kind of ruined us for what's realistic hand-to-hand combat.
I understand your point. I agree with your point. I think that maybe I'm overstating it. I'm not looking for that here. It really played to my eye like we're shooting at a distance because these are like it felt like Star Trek the original series. Where I was like, that's not Tommy Lee Jones and Wesley Snipes down there. Come on, guys. You'd be a lot closer if it was. Like, I would have preferred have them be brawlers. Absolutely agree with that stylistically. But have the camera down there with them in the midst of things instead of the way they staged some of that stuff it just felt clunky. And it's not even just that scene. I think there were a lot of stunts with this where, to my eye, and Darren, maybe you disagree with me, but it felt like Stuart Baird fell back on his I'll fix it in the editing bay type of, I'll cut this action sequence in a certain way that'll make it work instead of worrying about getting the right shots on set. Did that come across to you at all?
A little, like, when Snipes jumps off the building and is attached to something that we had no idea like he was attached to, and he gets away on top of the train. Like, I feel like that sequence of shots could have set us up a little more. I know they were probably going for like the shock of, oh, he jumped. Like, we know he's not actually jumping to his death, but yeah, it's movies like this, like action movies, they become exceptional when you are mastering the build of the shot, of the sequence of events, of the things you're telling your audience, and the capabilities of these characters. And then they're able to do the impossible, the crazy stunts and the swings and the stuff like that. I don't think this movie did that. It did cool things. There's, the airplane, a lot of the stunts that are happening, but I don't feel like it paid off in the way that the payoff would have been if they had constructed the buildup a little bit better.
I'll be clear. I'm not saying this is Zack Snyder in a Rebel Moon action sequence where I'm like, what the hell is even happening right now? And Tristan, in terms of, the plane crash that Darren mentions, I thought that was actually really well put together. Obviously, you agree with me, but is there anything about that stood out to you because you're desperate to defend this film?
How do you know I agree with you? Huh? Maybe that's like my least favorite part of the movie.
Oh, I know it isn't. I know it isn't because you know that I was squirming because that plane crash sequence is exactly what plays in my head every time I sit down in a plane seat. I'm like, this is inevitably going to happen. This isn't even fiction right now.
It's true. There's so many times, like, you guys, listeners at home, have no idea how many times I have played like the corner man, like in a boxing match, like before John gets on a flight, where I'm like, you can do this, man. Everything about this, you are the man. You got this. Everybody wishes they were you. Women want you. Men want to be you.
And I'm Rocky in the 15th round. Cut me, Mick. Yes, very true.
But no, of course, yes, I love the plane sequence. It's interesting because from a director's perspective, I have nothing but sympathy for Stuart Baird because The Fugitive is such a great movie. It's so good, and that train sequence is iconic.
Yes, it is.
And how do you top an icon even just 5 years later? And so I think you have to go big. You have to go big, and so. In order to, he bought a fuselage, and boy, did he show you that he actually bought a fuselage.
Oh, yes.
There is so much B-roll of that fuselage where you're just like, hey guys, this is real. Like, this is not a miniature. We actually shot this.
Just to be very clear, here's a shot of everybody standing around the fuselage. And by the way, here's a flip angle of everybody around said fuselage. It is
Here's
right there.
A car driving past the fuselage as we slowly pan back to it after the car is out of the frame. Yeah, it's. But the thing is, though, it was cool. Like, it was in the style of the train, but yet it wasn't the train. And I think that's a very fine line to walk. And I think 66 locations, doing something bigger than the train, and doing something just as interesting, and also having The Fugitive as well as Tommy Lee, like Sam Gerard, in the same crash, kind of up the ante, and brought up the stakes a little bit. And I think this was really well done. It was really well edited. Yeah, this was. I know we're rounding third here, and we probably should be giving our ratings, but I think that was a big set piece. And the director, since this is a director focused podcast, like he knew he had to deliver on that moment. Like everything else was just like, okay, like we're gonna color by numbers, but this moment, this is the cornerstone of the movie, and I think he sold it. I think he absolutely sold it.
I think that sequence is really well done. And you're right. We are rounding third. And that brings us to one of the key parts now of Houselights, which is who would Lance Reddick play here in U.S. Marshals? I have a very clear pick. And as host of as primary host of this particular episode, I'm going to exercise my privilege and say that I think I gave a clear enough hint earlier by fixating on it. But I would have cast Lance Reddick in Robert Downey Jr.'s role because I think that would have been absolutely electric, and he would have conveyed immediately that he was a potential adversary for Tommy Lee Jones. And I think, but at the same time, he would have played it where I would have also been able to say, well, maybe I should doubt myself on that because he's just a really strict by the book kind of guy. And so that is the role that I would have put Lance Reddick in. Darren, to you, where do you see Lance Reddick improving U.S. Marshals?
I picked a little bit of smaller role than Robbie Downey Jr. I picked the old army buddy, the guy who gets the gun and the cash from.
Ooh.
It's a real small scene, but when he goes there and he's like, I don't need to know what you're into, like, but I never want to see you again. Like, forget my face. Like, Lance would knock that scene out of the park, and you'd be like, oh, I don't care who else comes back in U.S. Marshals 3, but it's got to be that guy somehow. Bring him back. So that's what I went with. I don't remember the actor. It's hard to look up kind of those third level characters, but old army buddy for sure.
I like it. Tristan, where do you see Lance Reddick?
Man, that's such a better answer than mine. I think Darren wins this one. But for me, what I have written down is Walsh is the head of the U.S. Marshals.
Oh, okay.
I feel like even though I really, really enjoy that relationship between Walsh and Gerard, because I think it's really special. It's very intimate. And like after Noah died, you can see he's about to let go. Like when Walsh comes in, he's like a millisecond from letting go and just crying. But then John Lee Davenport, like Deputy Henry, comes by and says, hey, I got something for you. He immediately gets back to business. I love that scene. It's beautiful. And so I don't want to replace Kate Nelligan, I can't pronounce it, as Walsh, because I really like that aspect. But if I had to, like, say, like, oh my God, like she can't make it. She's scheduling conflicts. Like, let's go in a different direction. Lance Reddick, head of the U.S. Marshals. He's a great boss. I think this is my love of Fringe coming out, where he was like the head of the FBI.
Oh yeah, he was so good in Fringe.
And so I feel like that's kind of like peppering my opinion on this.
Fair enough. Yeah. So we, once again, we three see Lance Reddick in three different areas. And if we could clone Lance Reddick, he could have played all three and tripled the output of this film in terms of our ratings. But Darren, kick it to you first. What do you rate on the scale of 5 stars, which will never, ever be replaced by 6 because that would just be crazy? Where do you see U.S. Marshals landing on a scale of 5?
Well, this has less nostalgia glasses for me. You know, I don't. It's definitely not a 5. I'm not crazy, guys. I'm not crazy, but I may be in a chicken suit, but I'm not. No. But this was a fun movie. I enjoy rewatching this. Like Tristan, I've watched this many, many times, but still wanted to rewatch it again, just because it's like, I enjoy this movie. It's really fun. I have it in like this weird 2-pack. It's not with The Fugitive, which you would think, but it's with some other movie. I can't remember what it's paired with, but I'm going to give it a 4, which is a little bit on the generous side. I think it's definitely a 3, but it's going to edge to 4 because it's 90s joy, and it's getting an extra tick for that. And just the fact that there's few movies that I feel like I could pop in almost at any time, and this is one of them. So for U.S. Marshals checking those hen houses, dog houses, and outhouses.
Tristan, we'll save you for last because you have the biggest hill to climb here with the nostalgia. This was my first time viewing it, and I don't know that I'm ever really going to watch it again. This is a 2. I didn't particularly enjoy it. It overstayed its welcome. It had its problems with script. I didn't buy Robert Downey Jr. This is definitely Robert Downey Jr. before he got his head on straight. When it was obvious to me he didn't even want to be there, and that kind of took me out of it as well. I admire what they were trying to do. If they'd done it in an hour and 50 minutes, I probably would have been more down with it. So that's a 2 from me. And Tristan, why is it a 5?
Today is the day when we find out that John hates joy and 90s fun.
Wow.
Oh, yeah. No, that's me. That's me. You pegged me, Tristan. You figured me out. Finally, after all of these years.
No, I'm with Darren on this one. I give it a 4. There's yes, of course there's stuff wrong with it, but I have nostalgia glasses on. It's the 90s. It's fun. I've seen it so many times. I've rewatched it for this podcast. I'm going to rewatch it again. I love Tommy Lee Jones as Sam Gerard. I love the whole team. I love Daniel Roebuck as Biggs. Everything. I think it's great. I think it's so much fun. Could it be tighter? Yes. Does it drag a little bit out, during the second act? Yes. That's why I'm bringing it down to a 4. I know this movie doesn't get a lot of love. Like not a lot of people look back on it fondly. I feel like it's kind of been forgotten. And my 4 stars help keep it alive. And that's what I'm going to give it.
Tristan and I will watch it together again. John, you can't stop us.
Yeah, you can't stop us.
Yeah, okay. Well,
If you want to.
Not even if I wanted to, but what I can do is I can force the two of you to watch a movie, which I know you're going to rank lower than a 4 next week. Darren, what is it that we're going to watch in our final room of the House of Baird?
Oh, we saw it coming, sometimes like a train, sometimes like a plane. But next week, as we round out the house, we're going to 2002 with Star Trek Nemesis here on Houselights.
Join the revolution. Join the Nerd Party.